Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about Nikolas Motta versus Manuel Torres. Manuel Torres is 28 years old. He's got 1 inch of height and 2.5 inches of reach over Nikolas Motta, who is 30 years old. And they both have similar records. 13-2 for Torres, 13-4 for Motta. Manuel Torres has 12 finishes in his 13 wins, 6 by knockout, 6 by submission, and just 1 decision. So he's a very versatile fighter on paper. His 2 losses, however, both come by submission, and they both come in the first minute of the fight, and they both come in due to leg locks. One was a heel hook, one was a knee bar. Even if he lost to some really crafty submission artists on the regional scene, which I'm sure they were, it's no coincidence that he lost by leg lock in the first minute of the fight in both of his losses. So he's got to patch up that hole. I'm sure he's tried to over the years. It's been 4 years or so since his last loss. But there's no playing around here in the UFC. Although, I'll say, in this fight here, I don't think Nikolas Motta is a submission threat at all. And certainly not the type to lace up a leg and tap him out in a minute. Motta, he's got 0 submission wins in his 13 wins. 9 by knockout, 4 by decision. So he's definitely not a guy that's going to bring the submission threat. On paper, I'd say the first submission should go to Manuel Torres. And if he did get a submission, it would happen in the second half of the fight. That's my prediction. Because Motta's been tapped out twice. Once on The Ultimate Fighter and once this guy Marcelino. And they were both in round 2. A guillotine and a rear naked choke. And I think Torres, with his bigger frame, if he was able to get Nikolas Motta down and smother him, he would start to suck the life out of him and eventually get it done. But on the feet is where it seems like both guys want to be. Torres, you would think, would want to be on the ground because Motta is definitely more of a comfortable striker, but Torres can bang as well. He's got really tight technique and some solid power, as we've seen at the UFC level already. And Nikolas Motta's got a weak chin, in my opinion. A weak chin, that's his primary weakness. That's why, he's been knocked out in 3 out of his 4 losses. And they aren't to the most powerful guys, even though Jim Miller is starting to look like fucking Igor Vovchanchyn as of late. Jim Miller knocked him out in his last loss. That was last year, round 2 uppercut or whatever that was. Beautiful step-in strike from Jim Miller. This guy, Antonio Ribeiro, knocked him out in round 1. And then this other guy, Robert Hale, knocked him out. I didn't see that fight. But he's definitely got a weaker chin than most, Nikolas Motta. That's his primary weakness. And it's also his primary strength, his striking. He's got 9 victories via TKO in his 13 wins. A beautiful knockout over Cameron Van Camp in the UFC. That was, say what you will about the level of competition and Cameron Van Camp and whatever. It was a beautiful knockout. He also got a 3rd round knockout over Joe Selecki before they were in the UFC. That's a win that's gotten a lot better with age, and that's definitely his finest moment. And he's also got some other solid wins. Joe Lowry, Contender Series, Juan Gonzalez, got a bunch of knockdowns in that fight. Nikolas Motta, he's a very capable guy. It's just, I think, moving forward, he's going to lose, and when he loses, it's going to be by knockout, more likely than not. So I don't trust him, and I really like what I've seen from Manuel Torres, especially in that Frank Camacho fight, even though he's older and weathered. But I'm picking Torres to get the finish here. I think I'm picking Torres to win. It's the only bet available right now is money line. I bet on it at minus 180. But I do think if he wins, he gets the finish. Because Nikolas Motta is just that vulnerable, So, and I've also sprinkled a little bit on the under, but it's under 1.5 rounds, plus 120. I saw the plus money and I jumped on it, figuring, Nikolas Motta's got some really good striking, some potent finishing power, but he is very vulnerable. So I expect there to be a finish. I'm not married to it happening in the first round and a half of the fight, but whatever, plus money. However, I'm more invested in Manuel Torres. I just think he wins this fight, and I'm waiting for his prop bets to open up so I can see what they look like. Because, like I said, Nikolas Motta's never lost a decision. I think when he loses, it's going to be by finish. So if you can beef up a bet, isolate it to a finish and beef up the bet. That's the plan. Manuel Torres, if I guess I'd had to pick, I'd say he gets a knockout in round one, to be honest. A late round one knockout. I think if he was to get a submission, it would happen in the second half of the fight, but the knockout can really happen in any round. And I'd say it happens in round one. That's the pick. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.